Now, there we go. So we are recording, DK, and
All
I'm
right.
also clicking the button to go live on Facebook and into my little group, as well as on my page, which has over 6,000 fans, I guess they're called, on Facebook.
Right.
Although it is always funny to me to consider myself having fans. I don't know if that worked. It does say live on Facebook, so that is awesome. I
The
am
indicators are
live.
all there.
It's all there. So I am live recording this for my podcast, Just an Answer, with DK Warinner. DK is here to share his proprietary system in reducing and diminishing stress and anxiety. And so during a time when we have a pandemic going on, which is when we're recording this, there is a lot more stress, there is a lot more anxiety, and people are suffering. Who better to help us with that than somebody with decades of experience with this subject? But even during normal times, there's a lot of anxiety and stress in the world. And so DK is here to share with us, and I'm particularly excited that you're here to share with us some tools that we'll talk about in a little bit to actually help, right now. So thank you for being here, DK.
Thanks for the opportunity, Justin. As you mentioned, with the COVID-19 situation, it's really brought the conversation about anxiety and the recognition of how deep anxiety really can go to the forefront, because there's this constant pressure, right, of the uncertainty of not knowing how to react to this virus, what the impact of the economy is going to be, and there's lots of angles to take that. Really, I know that's not the subject of our talk, but it's a great time to be discussing this, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my system and offering.
Absolutely. So let me ask you my first question, which is what's been your biggest challenge in business and how did you overcome it?
My biggest challenge has been in the area of engagement. What I find is that a lot of whether you're talking about communities, organizations, or even one-on-one, a lot of folks are simply shut down. They're just going through their regular routines. And when I'm trying to offer something new or something unique to them, it's difficult for them to really take that in and truly consider that from a, if you will, a third party, or looking down at a perspective. But what I found, the opportunity that I had was to really solidify, clarify my message, systemize my own process. And once I did that, then that created a whole new level of engagement. And I found a lot more open doors once I got that completed.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because I think engagement is something that many business people struggle with. And you are not just an expert in stress and anxiety management, you're also a business person. This is a business that you're trying to run. And the gifts that you're giving us today are a sample of what you actually do professionally to a much deeper level. So, what would you say is the accomplishment you're most proud of in business so far?
What's most exciting about this is that I've been able to develop a system basically out of my own experience. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a qualified or certified naturopath. I'm not a certified therapist. But yet I've been able to take my 4 decades of experience of dealing with this issue on a deep level on my own, and develop not only techniques to resolve the situation for myself, but also to systemize and to make that system transferable. Thankfully, through the awesome opportunity I've had to mentor with Joel Bauer, where not only were we able to get the system to the point where it's easy to describe, easy to teach, but also the concept of transferability and the ease of being able to transfer that system in its complete form to someone else has been completely huge for me.
Absolutely, and I'm really glad you brought that up because well, two things really. First and most importantly is I reside in the UK and I do a lot of work with local governments and charitable organizations and statutory bodies. And one of the things that we talk about and value is experts by experience, and that's a phrase that is important to me because it's important. It is valuable to have education, to have certifications, qualifications. That's very good. The theory is good. The experience, in my opinion, is just slightly more important than that. If I were a patient and I was looking for help with my own anxiety or stress, I would actually slightly prefer working with somebody with decades of experience and no formal licenses or qualifications versus a brand newly licensed, fresh out of school therapist or counselor. That would be my preference. I know there's people that would think the other way, but I would prefer that to that because many times in history and even in hard science, the theory turns out to then not so much be true, played out in reality. The reverse, meaning the reality, always proves to be true because it's reality, it's life, it's what we are. So my preference is always someone with more experience and less qualifications versus someone with all of the trophies on the shelf and the wall and no experience at all. And so that's very important. And of course, you brought up Joel Bauer, and what a magnificent human being who has helped us all with our marketing, our positioning of ourselves, and being able to share what it is that we have to do with the world, even if it can be a little bit confusing. So, on that note, how did having a core strategy play in achieving that accomplishment?
The core strategy really helps to solidify my process and develop what I would consider focus, almost like you're applying a lens to a process that might just be a diffuse or seemingly like a random walk or just a long journey. And a lot of folks go down that road. They may undertake a discipline that may take years or decades of dedicated study just to achieve competence in that discipline, but may not actually even address the problem that they originally got into that discipline. For example, I don't want to pick on anything, but if a yoga practitioner engaged in yoga to deal with anxiety, well, that's great. It's certainly a way to handle it. But after 10 years, they're a yoga expert, and at the end of the day, they may still have to deal with the anxiety. But the nice thing about applying a simplified system that's specifically focused and pointed toward resolving the situation that I needed to resolve for myself as well as for my clients, makes that solution and resolution process that much faster.
Absolutely. And you know what? The proof is in the results. So if if someone has anxiety and after working with you, they don't have anxiety, if someone is really stressed and working with you, they escape that stress and arrive at, being calm or whatever the desired outcome is, well, that's the proof right there. The proof is in the outcome, the result. And so rather than, again, theoretical knowledge of applying these modalities and methods that somebody may have learned in school, and then the patient at the end of the day is still anxious or still stressed. And to me, that's more important than anything else. So let's talk a little bit about that. So, what are 3 to 5 key skills, moves, techniques that protect against failure? And here we can talk about because anxiety and stress are a huge cause of failure in people's lives. In the past, they've impacted me and, triggered some failures as well. So, let's talk about, you know, 3 to 5, it's up to you, skills, moves, techniques that you can, perhaps show us right now to help mitigate some of the stress. And let's have it be just a taster because obviously it's a gift that you're giving us right now. And, the full parade, the full package will be something that people can engage with you directly.
Sure. So what I can do is give you some high level techniques that actually, if you apply what I'm going to talk about right now, you'll get immediate results. That's the huge benefit, and really the opportunity I so much appreciate to be on your podcast here to share these. So the system that I have is organized into essentially 3 major areas. The first is the step of acknowledgement, to acknowledge there's more in life, there's more in our life and yours and in our clients' lives than just to manage and continue to deal with this stress and anxiety. The stress and anxiety need to be eliminated. Now, in my method, what we do is we just go through a relaxation phase where we really take inventory as to what's going on. in our body through the muscular and energetic relaxation, as well as touching the emotional and the head center just as first just to see what's there. Most folks do not even take the time to go through this step to really do what I would call a full internal diagnosis of what's going on, and really to acknowledge what is actually happening and what needs to be shifted to achieve elimination of the level of anxiety and stress that's present. And then we move on to the second phase, which for me is the most exciting, is the activation phase, where we begin to align all of those elements of our core being to actually, if you will, to decouple. If you can think of the analogy of a drum, if you hit a drum that has a loose membrane, it just gives you a thud. It doesn't really project the noise out very far. The energy for the most part is absorbed or dissipated, and there's very little effect to it, right? So now if you tighten that drum, now when you hit that thing, it's gonna sing all the way to the back of the orchestral hall, right? And that's what's happening inside, is that with those tensions that are present, and when they're collected, and then you have a trigger, say if you have a family member that you found contracted to COVID-19, suddenly your anxiety and stress are through the roof, and all that really happened was you heard some news, right? And that's not necessarily the response that you want to have, but because there's all that internal tension, that trigger comes in and bang, right? Now suddenly you've got a serious internal problem to deal with on your own, and you're not even really outside of care and empathy for your relative or your friend. You're not really actually affected, and really that's not the state of mind that you want to be. So we go through several phases of activation to bring alignment and actually bring primarily relaxation to your body to your body and mind. We call it mind-body mastery, and several different techniques. So there really isn't enough time to share that much about that here today, but just to put some attention on that activation sequence, folks can generate results for themselves, even just by listening to and considering that in their own situation. And then from that point, once that relaxation has been developed, now it's easier to develop and implement the vision you might have for your life in the third phase, which is the achievement phase, where now you're working on progressively and eliminating level by level the stress and anxiety levels that are perhaps even at the beginning of this process were hidden or not even perceptible by the individual. But now they see it, now they've been working on it, and now it's time to achieve diminishment and eventual potential elimination of those levels of anxiety and stress, such that now they're free to develop their vision. Now they're free to identify and engage on their purpose and their life mission, and to really move forward in a much fuller life experience.
Fantastic. So I thank you for sharing that. That is really good. So let's now tell me, so how has leveraging these proven strategies affected your earning capacity?
Well, it's taken me from what you would consider a level set of income, and now my ability to scale is much increased, because really the opportunity I have with a system like this is that it's a system that almost anybody can use. So whether I have one client, 10, 50, 100, 1,000, whether I can get on TEDx with a talk and be able to share some of these principles with several thousand, really the sky's the limit from what opportunities this could bring it, as long as I can find the right channels of engagement to pursue, and find folks that are both needing or desiring of this solution and open to receiving it.
Fantastic. So in terms of now, take us back to your own lived experience, your own expertise by experience. So how has these strategies that you've put together and shared with us today affected your earning capacity, being able to manage and mitigate your own stress levels, or has it?
Oh, it definitely has. I would say, in particular, my ability to work with various kinds of organizations, particularly in the corporate sector, has been dramatically improved. Over time, I've been able to achieve a doubling of my income, at least, if not more, through direct application of these strategies, and also the ability to achieve results that I would have simply been shut down earlier and not able to even pursue. So yeah, it's been huge for me, and I really look forward to further increase as I continue to apply this.
Yeah, and you know what? That's why it's so important, because a lot of times people get shut down or they don't move forward because they're anxious or they're stressed or they're worried about whatever, somebody's reaction, this, that, the other. Those There's lots of strategies that we could pick up to try, there's people who say, "Oh, just F them," that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And those are fine attitudes to have if they help you to move forward and progress. But it'd be a lot better, in my opinion, to not have that barrier to overcome at all, or if you have it, to overcome it once and for all, and then that particular stressor is just not present for you there. So that's kind of what
exactly.
I was hoping you would say, is that you're able to move forward. You're not stuck in procrastination because of anxiety, because of stress, because of worry, doubt, or whatever these things are that manifest as stress and anxiety in one's life, and prevent you from making progress in your business. And so your earning capacity, for example, as an employee, even if somebody doesn't own a business, would be increased if your anxiety and stress is managed or eliminated, potentially, because then you might not be so nervous at the next job interview. You might not be so stressed by the assignment the manager has given onto you, or the department head, whatever. Uh, so even in a career, this would improve one's earning capacity. To me, that's
100%.
obvious, but I know that to most people, that's not going to be obvious to have like that direct of a link. But there is absolutely a direct link. I have seen people try to lead organizations, try to hold a staff away day, and they're sitting there shaking like a leaf in front of the staff. And all I
Right.
could think of was, why are you afraid of your own staff? They work for you. It's like, why are you afraid of them? And wouldn't it help them so much if that anxiety was not there? I think it would. So that's, a shame. I don't know these people anymore. Well, no, two of them retired, so they don't need it anymore. But then I'd introduce them to you. I could say, you know what? Next time you have to deliver an away day, you don't need to shake like a leaf. I saw you, that kind of thing. But they've retired, so I don't think they're worried about that. But thank you for sharing those
Understand.
those three techniques, because they're helpful
Sure.
just to even just to keep in mind and do on your own, and write these things down. Awareness is huge, and so specific tools they can come to you for. But in the meantime, it would work wonderfully to at least crack the eggshell, and get in there right away. So what was the best strategy you ever learned, and what impact did it have on your business?
I would say the foundational strategy that I picked up through my career, with it's been most helpful to me, is the strategy of developing and applying frameworks, which really speaks to all of the concepts that we've been talking about so far. Systemization. It's very hard to systemize something if you don't have a clear and preferably a simple framework. So that's the other aspect, is the aspect of keeping it simple, keeping the framework with just a few elements rather than coming up with, I don't know if you've seen some of these funnel maps that people put out there these days, but they look a lot like computer circuitry, right? From
Oh,
a
I've
certain
seen
point
them.
of view. Yeah, but if you could just imagine just a single straight through path is the simplest way to get it done. And so really, I've appreciated having learned that fairly early on in my career, the application of simplified frameworks to guide my thinking and also guide my action and generate results.
Yeah, another thing I'm glad you said, because I have found in my career, which is probably slightly shorter than yours, that in simplicity there's power, and in complexity there isn't. I've observed that complexity is generally trying to hide something or get around something or trick something, and so complexity is introduced. But the real power is in simplicity. That's been my experience. And, I have a few decades under my belt. Again, maybe not four, but at least three of working. And so I think that that's a wonderful thing that you shared with us, because even in managing psychology, stress, and anxiety, again, it's the simplicity. The complexity causes anxiety and stress. it stresses people out. So this is not just a business lesson. This is also, well, what's the best way to manage stress? Simplify your life.
Hmm.
And your
Absolutely.
systems and your processes that if your therapist is stressing you out because it's so confusing, what the heck are they doing? You might want to find somebody else to work with that has a much simpler, roadmap for you to escape the stressful situation. That'd be my advice. So, very important question. What single best strategy are you best known for?
It's really, and I hate to keep bringing up the same topics, really, but really, what I'm best known for is simplification, right? So the framework is the, if you will, the theory, but the application of that theory is when you end up in a situation, whether it be within a company environment, say you have an engineering problem or some kind of a public policy issue, but to take something that has started out complex, that others have either built up over, for the purpose of concealing something, like you mentioned, Justin, or just by virtue of trying to bolt things onto each other to add functionality without disturbing or without opening the hood on what's already been built. You end up with this kind of natural complexity, or maybe you could think of it as entropy. Uh,
Mhm.
but what I have enjoyed doing and have had the opportunity to do on several occasions is to come into those situations where they appear incredibly complex, or perhaps the leadership is speaking of them as complex, and finding the simplicity in those scenarios, and then having the opportunity to lay out the framework, as we mentioned earlier, that brings that simplicity and makes it completely obvious. And I've seen a lot of success with that approach.
Fantastic. And do you know what that reminds me of is my dad. My dad's actually a medical doctor. He's not he is
Okay.
a licensed professional, and he's 70, but he's still practicing. He's not retired yet. And one of the things that he was best known for is also that, meaning he'd get patients with on like a dozen prescriptions, and he'd take them off, most of them, because for some reason my dad's a little wired in an interesting way. He carries the whole pharmacopoeia in his head, and he
Oh,
is
nice.
looking, I don't know how he does it, but he looks at these and he says, "You're killing," he would literally say this. His bedside manner wasn't wonderful, but he would say, "You're killing your patients because this drug interacts with that interacts with that one, that interacts with that one. I'm surprised he's still alive." And so what he would do, like one I'm thinking of is a heart patient. He, took him down from like 13 medications down to 3, and the guy lived. The guy was about to die, but that's why he went to the hospital in desperation, and he lived an extra 11 years. Now, that's a man who had
Excellent.
had 5 heart attacks, went at 35, went from being morbidly obese to slimming down, and in his mid-70s was now on his deathbed again, and my dad extended his life. Sorry, in his late how old was his name was Eugene. How old was Eugene? Anyway, he was in his mid 60s, I think. I was a little boy, so I'm trying to remember Eugene's exact age, but he was in his mid
Sure.
60s, 65, let's say. But I do know he died at around 75. So my dad extended his years by 10, 11 years by doing nothing other than saying, crossing out, crossing out, crossing out prescriptions, going from 13 down to 3. And that's all a testament to simplification. This is in drugs and medicine, but that's what my dad did. Real true story. So
It's
I'm
huge.
glad you brought that up, because it's huge, I think, in every walk of life. So what's the number one strategy you're implementing in 2020?
So for 2020, I'm going for a systemization as applied to the DK method, which is my system of anxiety and stress elimination. And so what I'm encouraging my clients to do is to systemize their own emotional management, if you will, right, by applying the method, and through the systemization, eliminating the stress and anxiety that they deal with, and then moving on with their life. Really, but the key there is to eliminate the randomness or the unstructured approach to the emotional management, and go for simplified, systemized, regular practice to actually achieve the success that I know that they can achieve.
Wow. And you gifted us already 3 steps, 3 moves, whatever you want to call it, that we can, even without engaging you, at least have a structure and a system to manage our mental health, stress and anxiety, whatever you want to call it, to manage our emotional well-being right away. So thank you for sharing that earlier on in this podcast. So last question, I promise, and then you're off the hook.
All right.
But this is probably the most important one, because at this juncture, I think a lot of people want to know is, how do we learn more about your proven process?
So I've opened a Facebook group. It's called the DK Method. That's THEDK, then the word method, where folks can find me there. And I also have a Gmail address at relaxmedk@gmail.com. And I would love to hear from whoever might be interested at either of those places.
Wow, I know I'm interested. Relax me, DK. Justin is not the world's greatest relaxer. I can confess to that.
All
So
right.
that sounds awesome. I might be emailing you myself at that address, but we will see, because I'm doing pretty good, but just not always relaxed. So thank you so much for coming today. One last, is there anything you would like to say or ask right now to leave us with?
I would just ask folks that are listening to us right now, um, pursue calmness. Right, there's no need to get caught up in all the news and the jitter that I think the media live on, if you will. And really, it's important for us to focus, to take a little bit of time each day to focus inward. Pursue calmness. If my method can help you, please reach out. But look after yourself a little bit in these difficult times.
Thank you for that message. I think we all need to heed that. And just as a reminder, if you would like to connect with DK, and in this time, I know that we're all hungry to connect. We have a hunger for connection because we are, to a certain degree or another, disconnected from each other. I always like to say that, this term social distancing, I wish they wouldn't have done that, because I don't think that's necessary. Ooh, but I'm not being controversial. I think physical distancing is important. Physical distancing. Social connection. I think we need to be more connected
Connection.
socially. Physically, no. Socially, yes. So that's how I'm clarifying that. But the term is interesting. So I would say that for more information and to connect with DK, he has two options. One is to just email him directly at relaxmedk@gmail.com. And the other one is through his wonderful professional VIP Facebook group, which you can find by searching for, could you repeat that and let me know what it is again?
Yeah, it is the DK Method.
The DK Method. The,
All one word.
THA, DK,
E-
Delta, Kappa, method, METHOD, the DK Method. It is a Facebook group, and I'm sure DK will welcome you to join that group, at least for a short period of time, to find out more and see if it's a fit for you. So do it, do yourself a favor, escape the stress and anxiety, arrive at some degree of calm for you. Thank you very much. This is Justin Dunn for Justin Answer. I really appreciate it. Thank you, DK.
Thank you, Justin.